So, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have a beautiful evening. I hope you are. Dale, how are you, my love?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm good. So glad you're with me. That's for sure. So, we're going to get started. Let me go ahead and pull up our conversation. So, you are all now watching Artist Blueprint. Now, Artist Blueprint today is episode 2, and we are with Mrs. Dale Novella Anderson-Lee from The Poet Will Be Televised. More specifically, Dale Novella Presents. And the Artist Blueprint is an opportunity for me to bring in some of my specially invited guests. We talk about art, culture, holistic wellness, and the politics of healing. We're bringing in artists, artist innovators, cultural innovators, artist educators, administrators, all of the above, and in between. And today we're going to be talking about transformative justice and self-care for creatives.
Yes.
So I want us to begin, as always, with a land acknowledgement. So I want us to recognize that we are all residing on the traditional land of Indigenous people. And here in New York City's Washington Heights, I reside on the land of the Lenape and the Wappinger people. And I just want to honor that and pay respect to their elders and their future as well. So I acknowledge them. And again, I acknowledge this land. And before we begin, I also cannot start without acknowledging my previous professor, Grace Aniza Ali. She was my professor at City College, but she also works at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. And it was in her course that I came across the Artist Blueprint as he worked to study the artists of the Americas across the globe. And I thought this would be the best way to interview my friends and my colleagues. And so here we are. Now, as a point of accessibility, I want you all to know that this is being brought to you by Zoom and restreamed by Restream. So it is available on both Facebook Live and on YouTube Live, where it will be hosted for later viewing. And I will post a link and all of the links that will be discussed in this conversation down in the comments afterwards. So stay with us. Please feel free to add your comments, your questions, anything that you want to say during the discussion into the chat area, and we will do our best. Matter of fact, let me get my phone up to stay with you. And I know people will be joining later as well. So feel free to add to the conversation. All right, let me go ahead and pull this up, Dale. Give me 1 second.
No worries.
Just on with people, if they want to chat with us. So I will be facilitating the discussion and also facilitating the chat. So please bear with me, everyone. All right, so thank you again for joining us. So I am your homie, sister, friend, Kymani Jade, and I am an artivist and educator, and I am the creator of the New African Artivist movement. And today we have Dale Novella, singer, songwriter, musician, advanced teaching artist, and certified yogi. Stretch it out. So Dale, we've been in the game together for quite some time now, haven't we?
Yeah. Yes, we have. Geez, like when did we do that training together? Like 4 years ago, something like that. But we've been both with Community Word Project for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that was back in we did Summer Institute together. We did one. Mm-hmm. That was probably 2016. So I think I did Summer Institute in 2016, and then I did it with you, and I'm sure you've done it before in 2017. Something along those lines.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
So we met through Community Word Project. Shout out to them once again. And we also worked together with Soul Sisters Leadership Collective for one of these years, like 2-3 years ago, I think. For a short time.
Which introduced us to the Asada chant, which is a beautiful chant to get you revved up and remember that you need to fight for your rights. I
know it's so funny because I was oh my God.
But it's a beautiful poem in her autobiography, which I think everyone should read. Especially Black women. Yeah. But we have to, we have to fight for each other. We have to stand with each other. We have to protect each other because there are forces that are against us. Our system is created to uphold white patriarchy. So
it is our duty to
it's our duty to fight for our freedom. It's our duty to
win.
We must we must
love each
other and protect each other.
And
support each other.
And protect each other.
We have the only thing we have to lose is
we
our
have
chains.
Nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose at our chains. See, I forgot.
But our chains. It just came to
general, me. Like the general feeling, but like the actual words, like losing. And that's the very last stanza of a long poem, right? That's in her autobiography. So
I love that. We have nothing.
Shout out to them for
chains. I'm gonna find that. We're gonna do that one more again before we wrap up.
At the very end.
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and find that, but I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But yeah, so we've been working with Community Word Project. We worked with Soul Sisters Leadership Collective, together, protecting each other, fighting for each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. But beyond that, Dale, you have done so much. You invited me to the Poet Podcast in 2018. So you have your own podcast, you're a host, you are an event curator, you do so much. You have the Poet Will Be Televised. You have the Color Challenge right now that's happening right now. I had the opportunity to act as one of the judges for the yellow challenge, for the chakra, the yellow chakra. So we can talk
the solar plexus.
The solar plexus, exactly. Thank you. So you are certainly a Renaissance woman, I would say. You do all of the things and you do it so well with humility and grace and excellence. And I cannot miss saying that. I thank you for everything that you bring into your work. Every time you step into a room, it glows. So thank you. Thank you for everything you are.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. So Dale, I need the people to see why I appreciate you. Just exactly why I appreciate you so much. Can you show them a little thing?
Okay, sure. I can perform something for you.
A little sign.
So this is called Money. And if you can hear it, I want you to dance along. Money is sweet, money is God, money can bleed, money satisfies, money cries, money lies, yeah. Give me what you need and do what I please. Take this cash and get on your knees. Beg and borrow life for it. Work to the bone, but get your check, All for that money, Money, what would you do for love, Money, what would you do for love, Money, what would you do for love, Money, See, love is good, love is sweet, but can your love buy me anything? Give me love, give me fame, put in the bank, then scream my name. Cash is king, greed is clean, love is money over everything. And people will dance, people will kill, people will steal, but bitch, pay me money. Hey, what would you do for love? Yeah, money. What would you do for love? Money. What would you do for love? Yeah, money, yeah. Money, hey. Money, yeah, money, hey, money. We live in a world where people don't care how they achieve success, whether crooked or fair. We want all the fame, all the glam, but what's the price we pay for the program? Yeah, hey, all for that money. Hey, what would you do for love? Money, what would you do for love? Money, what would you do for love? Yeah, money, yeah, money. What would you do for love? I'm sorry, I had to. You make me sing in the shower and outside in the living room. I love it. I hope so. That's like I want people to sing along and dance and also like think about what I'm saying. Like
Of course. You know? I love your album completely. I mean, I will tell you that 10 times over. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And I highly suggest that if you haven't already, click on that Bandcamp link. Please download the album, listen to it. It will be the best thing you do for your morning. It will wake you up. So please, if you haven't already,
thank you so much.
Yes, of course, of course, of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and genderless, brothers and siblings, I just want to take a quick moment to formally introduce you to the woman, the excellence, the renaissance in and of itself that is Mrs. Dale Novella. Now, Dale's roots lie in the South, where she performed as a singer-songwriter, curated events, and managed local artists, co-writing and producing their projects. With all of her success, she realized she needed to grow. She moved to New York City in 2012 to continue her dreams as a songwriter and event curator. Dale's message, mission, and music are meant to create space to raise the roof and your spirit while bringing funk, soul, and grooves with whatever she touches. Dale's 7 years running open mic jam sessions, including The Poet Will Be Televised, has brought some of the best and brightest independent talent that New York City has had to offer to numerous venues in the city for thousands of heads to enjoy, as well as curating for the likes of So For Sounds and the East Harlem Health Action Center, among others. Dale touched legendary stages such as A38 in Budapest, the Bowery Poetry Club, BB King's. Shout out to BB King's, y'all.
Yeah, R.I.P. BB King's.
You know what I'm saying? 42nd will never be the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sad day.
BB King's and the New Yorican Poets Cafe in New York City. And she has toured France, Germany, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Austin, Texas, and Rotterdam. A Funkadelic Studios sponsored artist. Dale's collaborators include Mandela Eskia. Please tell me if I'm saying this right. Mandela Eskia. Fuchs. F-Y-U-T-C-H. I said it wrong. Fuchs. Jade Zabrick, beautiful spirit, beautiful woman. Leah Anderson and her partner, Mikhail Amin, life partner and husband, with whom together form the group Where the Love Is. A certified yogi and teaching artist with Community Word Project, the Dream Yard Project, BK Yoga Club, and Building Beats, Dale uses her gifts and skills as a musician, singer, and yogi to help people find peace, express and connect with themselves and the world around them. Whether through song, meditation, or movement, Dale Novella's goal is to bring the world together in rhythm, one beat at a time. Keep up with her journey by following her on Instagram at Dale Novella.
Hey.
You are just amazing. I'm reading this and I'm just like, I want to read this book. Go ahead. ideas. Just go ahead and just
maybe one day I'll dictate a book to somebody. Or
something. Oh, you get on Audible now. Don't play. All right, so Dale, thank you for that lovely opening. I want to learn a little bit more about the artists behind the music and all of the blues, right? So tell me a little bit about who you are. What is your mission for your work, for your artistry, and what's your vision? Let's start there.
My vision, like when I was a little girl and I would listen to, like TLC, Mary J. Blige, SWV, all these things. And also artists that my parents, not just my mother, but my parents introduced me to: Prince, Motown, Parliament, Funkadelic. I felt like they were telling my stories. I felt like I knew them, like we were cool. And music does that in a way that regular conversation doesn't, in a way like maybe film doesn't. Like the arts tend to bring people together in general, but music really makes people feel like they're heard, like literally, even if they're not the one singing it. And I always wanted to be a part of that. And so when I was really young, I started writing songs and had like my own little song book. I still have, it's a Trapper Keeper, so I still have it like in my apartment in Brooklyn. It traveled with me. And sometimes I go through those songs that I like might pick a line or so. But my whole vision is like, for everything that I do, is to try to build spaces where people can come together and share their stories. Usually that does mean minority stories and stories of generational trauma or systematic oppression, but in ways that are you can kind of understand it. You feel like you're like, I can get this story a little better, which is why I created The Poet Will Be Televised, because I felt like that iconic poem, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, you could really understand Gil Scott-Heron's idea of like, oh, y'all say y'all want revolution, but this is what it really is going to be. Like, he has a lot of pop references in it. It's a beat that you can kind of like groove to. It catches your attention when you hear it, when you hear that flute, when you hear the congas. Like, and I wanted a space that kind of reminded me of that and had that feeling where it's like, you still want to go like this, but you're like, yeah. Because, you know, I know, you know, sometimes you go into poetry space and you're like, I'm triggered now. I don't feel better. I feel like I need to call my therapist. Like, somebody got up on that stage and I don't like, I felt like they were telling my story, but I can't, like, I don't know what to do with it now. Like, all this is now up and raw and I have nothing. Like, so I wanted a space that kind of felt like it's out in the open. But now we can talk about it because it was presented in a way, excuse me, presented in a way that is more palpable, and it's not less true. It's just presented differently. So that's my hope for all of my music. Like, Money is talking about capitalism and how capitalism fucks with your brain, but you want to dance to it. And that's one, like, it's one thing that people don't understand. Like, a lot of music today is talking about like depression and unhealthy coping mechanisms, like taking opioids to dull pain instead of talking about that pain and talking about what's really going on, and like saying, I took a bunch of opioids, then I went and fucked somebody over, and now I'm back to getting drunk and I'm partying in the club. And it's like, that's a lot of our music that's going on today, and it's not healthy. But you know what? It seeps into your brain, and even if you don't agree with the message, you kind of start like feeling that way or desensitizing yourself to it. It's not like, I feel like everyone should express themselves and talk about their real lives, but we have to take a step back and say, if this is what the music is and this is what these people are really experiencing, like, what's going on with our youth, what's going on with our society, you know?
Right. So. Thank you. So you've definitely created a lot of spaces to do just that. And I want to speak also to your work in restorative justice, right? The restorative circles and care practices that you engage in as an advanced teaching artist, and also as a yogi, I'm sure, like the physical aspects of that trauma-informed touch, right? For example, not that you're touching people, but as you're assisting them in their moves, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable touching people when I'm leading yoga classes, and it's just because it is such a delicate thing, like, not just because of trauma informed sharing energy, and also because you don't want to like push someone into a position too hard and then you might hurt them, like physically hurt them. So I don't, just because I don't feel comfortable with it yet, but it is definitely a thing. And movement in general, some people, that's just how we get out our stress. Sometimes you're in a yoga class and you don't even realize, I've been shrugging my shoulders all day. And shrugging your shoulders many times means you're closed off from receiving. It means your heart is closed. You got to open up your chest and you don't even know. So some people do some chest opening exercises and all of a sudden they're like crying and they have no idea why. And it's like, because you've been holding something in. And you can take a moment to just stop and ask yourself, what was the thing I was holding in? What is the thing I'm closing myself off to? So that's one great thing about movement. And movement, having healthy movement in your life affects your spiritual and your body, and they go together. You can't have spiritual health without having some kind of physical health, and vice versa. So. At least that's what I believe, and I've seen it to be true with myself and with lots of other people. So
yeah, and it's so important for us to get moving right now too, especially with quarantine and the lockdown and so many of us being indoors. You know, we are meant to be outside. We are meant to be, you know, convening and moving our bodies. And if we have to be inside, yoga is a great practice to engage in, right?
Yes.
to restore yourself. It's very restorative, yoga is.
It is very restorative. Yeah, and coming, like, it's other restorative practices I've done, like especially with CWP, like just trying to encourage my students to really to give each other equal space, and not to shame each other, that everyone's like opinion deserves respect. And I realized like fairly recently, that this idea that we have that we earn respect is actually wrong. Like we're born with a certain amount of respect, and we're all born of the divine, right? We're all like made of the same stuff. We're on level ground when we're born. And then we do things that might make us lose respect with certain people, and we might have to gain that back. But we should, when we first meet someone, we should automatically give them like the same level of respect that we want. So like we have this idea that we have to earn respect, as if everyone is just a clown until they prove otherwise. And so I've been trying, like unconsciously, because I really just had that realization that that's like what I really believe. Unconsciously, I've been kind of like trying to get people to understand this. Like, no, you give everybody the same amount of respect as soon as you meet them. And if they prove that they don't deserve that respect, that's when you lower your respect. But you don't like just come up and be like, I don't believe you, or you have all these assumptions, right? And that's what's been causing so many things in the world. We have assumptions about people of color. A lot of people assume people of color are usually very liberal. Many of us are not. I would actually argue most people are moderate, regardless of how they see each other on the political spectrum. They're kind of midline. And in New York, I've met a lot of conservative or more conservative people of color. Even if whether or not they're Trumpers, they're still like, they might have very religious values, or just very like traditional gender beliefs, very traditional sexual beliefs. So yeah, we come into circles, we come into spaces with a lot of things already, and coloring those experiences with past experiences, and trying to, in my work, I try to allow people allow people or teach people how to detach from those colors that we bring into spaces, and also try to do that work on myself, because I do it too. Like everyone, no one is like, I don't know, I'm not a monk. Like I guess monks kind of have learned how to detach from their previous experiences and just see people as like who they are literally in front of you. I haven't learned that quite yet, but I'm learning, and I'm trying to teach other people what I know. Like, so.
That's great. So you spoke to a lot of the work that you're already doing in restorative justice, but just to bring it home for people who are new to this work, can you share a little bit about what is restorative justice as you understand it, you know?
Yeah, restorative justice, at the very heart of it, is just creating spaces where each person who participates in the space can come together and speak their piece on equal footing. And traditionally, the way we were taught, it is a practice of indigenous peoples of, I suppose, the northern United States and Canada, who, whenever there is a problem in their community, come together in a circle. Each person is posed a question. They get equal amount of time to answer that question, and no one is judged on their answers. It is what it is, and they try to conflict resolve from there. And teaching artist work, and much of the teaching artist work I've done, and I know you've done as well, Kymani, we try to just set those principles up from the very beginning. Like, we come in the classroom, we say, how's your day going? Everyone gets like 2 minutes or however much time we need, depending on the class and what like our students respond to. And we set up that circle time. We set up that time for them just to express themselves. Right. And that's another thing we're kind of taught, to just shut up and do our work in regular school, right? That's still a thing in 2020. Like, no, shut up, do your work. Like, how you feel about your work doesn't matter. You're not 18 yet. When you're 18, all of a sudden you get a vote. It's like, no, you should be learning how to be an adult before you are actually an adult. But you know.
And I think that's really at the root of restorative justice work, restorative practices, particularly in school, and transformative justice outside of the schools, outside of the criminal justice system, is to really put people, not just our youth, but people, adults, all of us at the center of our work, and have it be about relationships and relationship building and healing broken relationships and healing harm, and having everyone have a say in that healing process.
Yes.
So everything you've spoken to really just breaks that down and unpacks that. So thank you so much for all that you've shared already.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
I want to learn so much more about each one of your projects. So let's start by talking about the Rec Life, Royalty Entertainment Company. Can you tell me about how that started, what it is, and where it's going?
Cool. So Royalty Entertainment Company has had a few faces and it's still growing every single day. I've been running my company on and off for almost 10 years. It started in South Carolina. I was, as you said in my bio, I was working with artists, producing their records and managing artists in South Carolina. And then when I moved to New York, while I was kind of setting myself up, I was like, I really would like to see certain spaces that do certain things. I said, the Poet Would Be Televised is supposed to be like a happy space to talk about real shit. And I didn't have a space like that, and I wanted to bring a space like that to New York, and that's how the Poet Would Be Televised started. And we continued making similar spaces. We used to do an event called Mood Music, which was like classic R&B, and artists. I booked artists that I knew were doing more like, you know, Tony Braxton-esque 90s R&B. You know, you don't see a lot of spaces for those artists anymore. So we had Mood Music, eventually the Poet Podcast, which is us just like, I pose questions to a panel. We talk about those questions. They could do with self-care, social justice, politics, culture, romance, anything. And we show clips from the Poet Would Be Televised that kind of enhance the conversation as well. And right now we have, of course, me, the Rec Life. We do not only event production, but workshops, yoga and mindfulness. We'll be adding some more poetry and more poetry for creatives, songwriting for still in development, but they're coming. A bunch of different workshops around for creatives and for, I don't want to say non-creatives, because everyone's creative in some kind of way, right? Like, people are like, I remember asking a student, like, what do you do? He was like, I don't do anything creative. It's like, well, what did you do yesterday? It's like, well, when I get up in the morning, I make breakfast for me and my siblings. It's like, that's creative. Like that's a way to be creative. Yeah. You know, culinary arts. Right. And she just looked at me like with the blank stares, like, I just made like a cheese sandwich. I was like, some people don't even think about that. They were like, I don't have no cereal. I don't know what to eat. like, you know, so like waking up in the morning and looking in your fridge and thinking, I have these ingredients, this can make these things, is actually a creative thought process.
Right.
And like a lot of people don't even realize that.
Say it again.
A lot of people just don't think about it that way.
It's true. It's true. I think that when we think about cooking and the culinary arts, we don't, for a lot of us, our peers, we don't imagine ourselves in those fields. You know, we don't see the greatness in those fields until we see like American Chef or Chef, and then we're like, oh wow, there is something there. So to, you know, shine that light for our youth to see what's possible for them. Mundane tasks. Make a world of a difference.
And you know, a few years ago, I'm supposed to be talking about what my company does in general, but we do workshops and just encourage the unique voice. And also me, like my production, songwriting, I'm open, like book me for collaborations or to write your song or make your beat and whatnot. And I, like, through different organizations and on my own, teach how to create meditative tracks and things like that. And I'll be getting more into sound healing as time goes on, which is very interesting. Has a lot of like depth, even in the digital world.
So Dale, tell me a little bit more about your personal style. Like, how did you get into your musical style? What is it? Can you define it for us? I know you talked about some of your influences earlier on and who you would listen to, the music your parents enjoyed, but can you tell me a little bit more about your personal voice and style?
Yeah, man. It took me a while to really be comfortable with it because I feel like growing up, I have a sister who's wonderful. Is a wonderful singer, Lee Anderson. Yeah. And Lee has very much of a a very pretty Whitney-esque voice. She sings Mariah Carey-esque voice. That's like, she has her own style, of course, but it's much more in the traditional R&B vocal style. And I do more of a soul rock thing, right? And I think that voice in the South is very familiar to people, and it's more like, you sound like them old ladies who sang in the church, who be like squalling in the church, and I would get laughed at. And I would be like, so I think for a while, for at least 10 years of my life, I was just very much like, I'm not singing, I'm just gonna write. And I've always been more of a writer. I am more introverted, so I always knew I wanted to be a songwriter, but like, I knew I wanted to sing on some level as well. And I used to say, I don't really have dreams of being on a big stage, blah, blah, blah. But like, I love sharing my art with people. And I do see it more like a conversation. So just, especially moving to New York, where I've said this, like, New Yorkers are hustlers, you know, you're from here, but they're also like, I have to get this. And like, when you come, it's very individual. So when you come here from somewhere else and you're like, I can help you write a song, they're kind of like, yeah, I can write my own song.
Yeah, I feel you in that. Yeah.
And I don't believe you can write a good song because I ain't never heard none of your songs. Yeah. So what are you gonna do? If you're a songwriter, how about you sing one of your songs? And it's like, it was that. Yeah. So I was like, well, looks like I'm gonna have to start performing more. And at first it was just, and I still love poetry. On my album, there is some poetry here and there, and there'll probably be more throughout. I'm not like, I didn't quit writing poetry altogether.
Shout out to Harlem.
Yeah, shout out to Harlem.
Y'all gotta get the album, okay? Get the album. Go ahead.
Please do. But like, I started doing more spoken word, and I had been doing spoken word since like 2009, and I just as long as I've been writing songs, I've been writing just like poetry with no melody, no music, whatever. And I was like, well, I need to start developing my voice and really recognizing what feels good to me. And I was working, like, my day job was as a manager at a jazz club. I was an assistant manager at a jazz club. So I was always around jazz. Before that, I'd worked in public radio for a jazz radio show. So I was like, oh, I'll sing like them. And it just did not speak to my soul at all. And I still love jazz vocalists. And there's just like, it's one of the American music forms like that jazz wouldn't have been produced anywhere else. Jazz could have only happened in the United States, right? So it's like something that we need to cherish and uphold. And like, I think every American, if you're born here or you identify as American, then you need to have some kind of knowledge of jazz. That's how I feel. But like, it doesn't like speak to my soul like that. When I sing it, I'm just kind of like, just sing a jazz song. And if it doesn't feel, meanwhile, if I sing, a 90s rock song, like What's Up, I feel open. I feel like I've like really like expressed myself. And I was like, this is where I need to be. I need to be in that like rock soul genre where I'm like, or 70s rock, 70s soul, funk. But it took a while to just like really embrace that because you don't see it a lot in mainstream media, especially right now. And I love alt R&B. I will say that, like Don Richard and SZA and Solange. I did not have voices like that. Like, I did not have light, crispy voices at all. And I love my voice. But it's like, sometimes you get in your head around, oh, I sound so different, especially when you've been, as a child, been laughed at. But we have to kind of embrace our inner child and just be like, that's okay. You got laughed at. Some people gonna laugh at you and some people gonna dance with you. And so and just like got to do what's right for your soul. So it took a while. You said what?
They both gonna find joy out of your work. Go ahead and relax. Go ahead and dance and sing. Whatever.
Yeah.
Find joy either way.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's just like really being honest with myself about what felt good when I sang it, and that's how I found kind of my identity in music.
Rock and soul.
Yeah. Because there's a singer named Betty Davis who was Miles Davis's wife in the early 70s, and she's amazing and ferocious, she put out a few albums. I think she put out like 6 or 7 albums in the early 70s, and then was just like, I'm done, and kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. And she's still alive. She's just like in North Carolina being a grandma. Like, and if you listen to her music, you're like, she's a grandma. But yeah, like hearing her, listening to old Mary albums, even knowing like all the shit that Mary went through. Mary J. Blige, for those of y'all who are do not recognize. All these people say Mary, like, you know, so hearing their records, it was kind of just like, this is where I feel like I'm in this community. A more contemporary singer that I love is Alice Smith. I actually played one of her records for a mentor of mine last night, and he was just like, I felt like I was listening to you. Like, that's like exactly what you sound like. So I love Alice Smith to death. Yeah, just like a big soulful sound. And I just had to I had to like sit with it and be really comfortable with it and be like, if I'm going to put on performance, I need to be having fun too. You know?
Yeah. That's what we saw just now, having a whole bunch of fun. I really thank you for introducing me to this whole new genre of music. I mean, funk, soul, rock, none of these are new, but the way that you create your unique sound is new for me, and I'm sold. So whenever your next album come out, let me sign up for your mailing list. I'll be one of the first people to buy, and you will too. Yes. All right, so you created a stage for yourself, and you're creating a stage for other artists as well. So you talk a little bit about the Poet will be televised. Can you tell me about where this happens and who do you feature and how can others join in? Virtually or otherwise.
Virtually, we took a little break because I was just like, with COVID, you know, the technical issues. I had technical issues getting with this interview today. So I was just like, I don't know if I really want to do it the same way and just have like an open mic once a month. But it is a monthly open mic and jam session traditionally for poets and the poetic to jam out, come bring your original music, original poems, or freestyle with a live band. And that's the heart of it. And it would always be so fun to hear a poem from like a spoken word artist or a song from a hip hop artist, a singer, reworked on the spot, to kind of to fit in with the vibe, or just like so many poets that like had never done anything to live music before, even hip hop artists that never done anything to live music before, coming in front of a live band and being like, all right, it's right here. Let's start with the drums, what have you. So it's a great space to see that magic happen instantaneously. And, you know, we're the hip hop generation, or we're of hip hop culture. So improv is a big deal for us. And it's great to see it live like that, in a different way. In the virtual realm, we are gearing up for a series of pre-recorded The Poet Will Be Televised that we will be broadcasting on our YouTube page, but you can go to YouTube. If you search for The Poet Will Be Televised, it should pop up. Like almost 7 years of fun and love, and I'll be posting even more stuff as the weeks go on. And we also still have the Poet Podcast, which will be recording another episode, and it will premiere next Monday around the same time. So
yes. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be leaving all the links to every cool thing that Dale is sharing with us now in the comment section, and it will be in the video description box where you can find it hosted on YouTube. And I will be sure to add Dale's channel there as well. Not the Poet Podcast. What's your YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel, like I have one myself as Dale Novella, and there's also, you can look for Dale Novella Presents, or you can go to youtube.com/Royalty Entertainment Company. It's a lot to say.
We're going to get it in the links anyway. Don't worry.
Yeah, but you would get it in the links. Yeah.
You're doing a lot. That's why it's a lot. So, before we move forward, I just have to say happy belated birthday once again.
Is it still September? Yeah, still September.
It is
still my birthday month. So it's still my birthday. Yeah.
Holding on to September, holding on to this warmer weather. So, Dale, you're a Virgo. Tell me something interesting about you as a Virgo.
As a Virgo, I like organization, but am not always organized, which is strange. I'm one of those Virgos who like I have organized chaos around me a lot. Like I have stacks of things that seem unimportant. And then you move it and I'm like, my whole world has collapsed because everything was like, I knew exactly what was in that stack. I'm one of those people. And I drive people crazy because I always want to have a list and a calendar invite. And when we were getting ready for this, I was like, oh, thank you so much for having like a timeline. And most people are like, Dale, why do we have timelines? Dale, like, why do we have so many timelines? So like, that's one of the weird things about me as a Virgo that I think all Virgos can kind of relate to on some level. This like weird, I'm very organized, but it may not make sense to other people how I'm organized. And then sometimes I'm not organized, but I still am organized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what other artists are under the Virgo sun?
Pink and I had the same birthday. I think she's like exactly 10 years older than me or something, or 9, September 8th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because our sounds are very similar, I think.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That is so true.
Yeah.
All right. So Pink and Dale Divine, that's what I'm going to call you. I'm naming names by the time you're off this webinar call thing that we got going on. All right, so Dale, I want to delve a little bit more into the work that you're doing in general. So we talked a little bit about your work with the Rec Life and the Poet Podcast. Can you tell me something about your latest challenge, the Color Challenge?
Yeah, the Color Challenge is like meshing all of the things that I do together. It's a call out to artists of all genres, like really vocalists, I suppose. So singers, rappers, poets, to write a 1-minute verse / song about each one of the chakras / colors of your energy wheel, energy. What do I want to say? Energy fields. Yeah, that wasn't the word I was looking for, but that's it. So like each chakra is associated with a different color, and it goes along with the color wheel. So Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Right. So I asked, the challenge is to come up with an original 1-minute piece about either what the chakra means and what the chakra controls, or what the color means to you. So like red, for the root chakra deals with your sense of security, your basic needs being met, and it grounds you. It gives you, when your root chakra is balanced, you feel grounded in something, and you don't feel like you're just waiting all over the place, right? But a lot of people associate the color red with romantic love, with passion, with anger, wine. It's a bunch of different things. So like the entries have been interesting how people connect the two. And with the solar plexus chakra, that's yellow, comparing, the sun to the center of the earth, or center of your body, because the solar plexus is right in the middle, and it kind of holds all of the chakras together. So if that's out of line, it's essentially who you are. Like, right. If your solar plexus is underdeveloped, you are very insecure. You don't really know who you are. You don't really know what to do with yourself. You're kind of just like, and if it's overdeveloped, you think you're king of everything, right?
Yeah, so too, the movement, like the cocking of the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the color challenge, each round's winner gets $30. Some of the winners have chosen to take the money. Some have donated it. Usually it's donated, which I'm thankful for, because I think that's a beautiful thing to give back to the community. And then the winner of all 7 rounds will get a $50 gift certificate to Funkadelic Studios, which for artists, if you're a vocalist, is amazing, because you always want to put something on wax. You need to record something, you need to rehearse something, and Funkadelic Studios does that for you. So nice. And $50 right now, because $50 will give you like an hour of mixing time, or like 2 hours of rehearsal time, 2.5 hours of rehearsal time. That's actually really good.
That is pretty good. But you work not only as a solo artist, but in a duet, right? Duo.
Yes, in a duo. Yeah, with my husband.
Your husband and life partner.
And life partner, Kymani, who is an amazing rapper and hip hop educator as well. And so we've toured Budapest. We did a few shows in France. We've toured Germany and Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So, and we're hoping to resume all that once COVID it goes away, and of course go up and down the East Coast. I try to tour the East Coast every year so I can have an excuse to like go visit people in other cities.
Which so how did Where the Love Is come about? What birthed the project, and what are your songs like? What are you singing about?
Well, the songs that we have out right now are kind of like double layered. Like we have a song that's self-titled. It's also called Where the Love Is. And we talk about like the love for each other, but also like go where the love is. Because I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in, these people over here, they're the cool people, but they don't really see me and I need them to see me. Well, no, you don't. Yep. Just go where the love is. Go where the yes is. Go where the people who appreciate you are. And go where it's warm. Go where the sun is. Yeah. And so Where the Love Is has that double meaning, where it's like we're talking about each other, but we're also talking about just like the love of our friend group, of our fans, of the people we work with, and their appreciation, and how like that's really grounding for us. We have other songs where we talk about pretty, and we have a song called Pretty, and it's with 2 German rappers, one which is Schlax, who's a great education collaborator with Mikal as well. They taught at the Dortmund hip hop school as well in Germany together. And that song kind of talks about like being beautiful on the inside and just having like really good values, and like like how are you treating other people? What are your values? How are you treating the earth? And so on and so forth. What vibes are you putting out to the world? So a lot of our songs deal with those types of issues. And we want to make more music that deals with not only like our life, because we have our life is together, but also more social issues, more political commentary. Like a lot of Mikal's work is steeped in political commentary. He has like 10 albums or something.
Amazing artist, by the way.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Phenomenal artist.
Yeah, I like to joke. He is so he's so humble, and I'm just like, almost every rapper that I've met in New York, you've taught. Like literally you have taught them. So like he was the director of programming at Urban Word for 5 years. So there's a lot of heads that can come through Urban Word, whether it's hip hop or spoken word. So,
and Urban Word New York City is another arts and education organization that works around spoken word with youth in the 5 boroughs. So where do we find your work? Your work with Mikal, and also Saying Bitch. I want to say one time.
You can find our music together on all streaming platforms. We're everywhere, but also on Bandcamp if you want to like support us directly and download that music. Definitely go to our Bandcamps. It's there. But yeah, add us to your Spotify playlist and to your SoundCloud playlist, and all of that. So Where the Love Is, or just like McCalamine and Dale Novella, it also pops up there.
Perfect. Okay. So outside of your singing and your teaching, this is actually still inside your teaching wheelhouse. You're a yogi.
Yeah,
so, where do you practice?
Well, I usually practice, if we're talking about like my own personal practice, just wherever I can find space in my tiny apartment. But I teach through Brooklyn Yoga Club, which is a black-owned studio in Dumbo. I don't know, like COVID, like kind of flipped the fitness, wellness, all those spaces upside down. So I'm not even sure exactly where we'll be next, like whether it's still going to be in Dumbo or another neighborhood in Brooklyn. But it is a pleasure to work for two lovely Black women, and knowing that their space is body positive, that they welcome all identities, that they're also musically inclined. So we have open mics and panel discussions and all these types of things, in addition to yoga and mindfulness events. So that's been great. And also, like, just the way I started teaching yoga and got my certification was with an organization called Breathe for Change, which teaches teachers how to implement yoga and mindfulness into the regular classroom. So we got like a yoga certification, and then plus also an SEL certification, which is, I don't know, it was really life-changing for me,
Breathe for Change, very popular.
Yeah.
Organization. Can you tell everyone what SEL is?
SEL, social emotional learning. And right. with Breathe for Change, they call it social emotional learning and facilitation. Because like when many times with SEL, with SEL training, they talk about things you can do in the classroom, but you really have to think about what you're doing as well, and how like little things that we may not notice that we're doing, like favoring a student, that can be really damaging to the other students in the class. Like if you're always going to one student knowing, oh, they know the answer, or if you're always like demonizing another student because they're always bad, even when they're not doing anything, you just look at them, it can be really damaging to them and the rest of the class. And also because we go into classrooms and we take on all that energy, and then we go home and we still have the energy and we put it on our partners, we put it on our own children, we put it on our cats and our dogs, our friends, and we have to learn how to like let all of that stuff go. So learning how to let all that stuff go and teach our students how to let it go, and come to the classroom fresh.
And it goes hand in hand, that social emotional learning practice for ourselves goes hand in hand with restorative justice practices, as well as those misbehaving students, those students with the difficult behaviors aren't being punished all of the time, but being welcomed into circles, welcomed onto the mat, and they're able to also decompress some of that tension, in their lives.
Yeah, and one thing, they're starting to show it a little bit more in television and things like that, but like showing how the students who are demonized as bad, like they're a bad kid, they like really take on that identity, and then they go out in the world and they are bad. They're criminals, or they just do, things that society does not deem as being appropriate, just in general. And it's because you start to internalize all the things that you're being told. Just like we were talking about the music and how you listening to that, all of this music, you subconsciously take it on. And that's what happens with us when we're told over and over again, we are a thing.
Right. So that brings me to another question. So how would you say that your work, all of your work with the Rec Life, the Poetry, the Poet podcast, you work at Sylvana's with the Poet Will Be Televised.
Yes.
You work at Yogi at the Brooklyn, where was it again? Brooklyn Yoga Club.
Brooklyn Yoga Club, yes.
Brooklyn Yoga Club, and your work around restorative justice, which you've done with multiple organizations, what's kind of built into your practice. How would you say that all of your work reflects or challenges our history and especially today's politics?
Oh man, how's it challenging our history?
I touched on that already just now.
Yeah, just like challenging people on how how we're treating each other. And I don't acknowledging that we have differences, but like not demonizing those differences. It's like, just because something is different doesn't mean that it's bad. Right. Or doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It just is. It's just different. And it's something that I don't think a lot of us actually realize that we're doing. We just automatically hear, oh, that's not how you're supposed to do it. Like, well, to you who live over here on 86th Street, y'all might do it this way, but if you live on 22nd Street, you do it another way, or whatever. You live in Brooklyn, you make macaroni and cheese this way. You live in the Bronx,
that's real.
You might do it some other way.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in South Carolina, so I know the right way to make macaroni and cheese.
Meanwhile, as a Bayesian, I'm like, pie? You making macaroni pie? What you making? You making
macaroni pie is closer to the right way.
Oh, okay.
I will never get how people don't bake their macaroni. I'm just like, how do you? It's not macaroni and cheese. It's like literally macaroni noodles and cheese, but it's not mac and cheese. Like, it's not. Like, if it didn't go in the oven, that's not macaroni and cheese.
I mean, it's just different.
It is there. Yeah.
It's just different. Real different, but it's different.
It is real different. It might be delicious, but let's not call it that. Yeah.
Okay, well, Dale, this has been an amazing conversation. I wanted to switch stations really quickly, but before I do, I want to hear from you more about what your own self-care practices are. You talked about doing yoga on your own in your apartment, but what are some of your self-care practices? And also, what are some of the affirmations you tell yourself or give to yourself in the morning, for example?
Yeah. So at night, I have to make sure I meditate. I actually listen to meditations at night, and I let that, I don't have like a specific one that I listen to. I just let it dictate depending on my mood. Some days I don't want to meditate. I might listen to like an audio book. Like sometimes I listen to the Tao, or I can't remember what it's called, but it's for warriors. The Art of War. Sometimes I listen to the Art of War. So, or any other self-help audio book that is not super cringy, because they can be. Sometimes self-help books are really just how to oppress other people and be at the top of the food chain instead of actually self-help. But that, whenever I get into periods of time where I'm not doing that meditation or not taking that time and like kind of like subconsciously reprogramming so that I wake up fresh, I can definitely see a difference in my like mood each day. So that's a must. Just little things like that. And in the mornings, I like to wake up, say an affirmation, kind of like just giving honor to the earth, giving kind of reaffirming that I cherish myself, my friends, with family, and lighting candles, lighting incense, letting that smoke kind of cleanse the body. Not really, why can't I remember the word for it? Not really saging, like what you do with sage, the indigenous practice that for cleansing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I can't remember the actual word for it.
For cleansing?
Yeah, like with a sage stick, and you have to take like a clamshell and like it's burnt. Yeah, and you're supposed to have all the windows open so that like the bad energy can get out. And I always forget what it's called, but you can do it with sage or Palo Santo.
I've always cleansing, like cleansing your home. I don't know. That's interesting. I'm gonna look that up now.
But yeah, I believe that works. I don't do the proper technique all the time because I don't be wanting to open my windows. But even just like standing in the smoke, waving like incense or Palo Santo around me, and just like breathing in that smoke and letting, like, breathing in love, breathing out despair or low self-esteem or just anxiety, and just letting it kind of like refresh me for the day. I like doing that. Those are my little things that I do.
That's beautiful. All right, well, we're about to wrap up. And before we do, I wanted to also take some time to just bring in the name of Breonna Taylor. Now, I don't want us to have a heavy conversation. I don't want us to go out in the heaviness that we talked about earlier in this discussion, but I do think it's important that we center the demands of her family that still remain to this day, especially as we talk about restorative justice. So for those of you who are watching who may or may not know Breonna Taylor, first Breonna Taylor passed away in March, and she passed away while she was sleeping. She was actually gunned down in her own home, by 3 plainclothes dressed officers in Louisville, Kentucky. She was shot 8 times, and to this day, no one has been charged in her murder. And her family have made a number of demands. Today, I just want us to really honor the demands of addressing the use of police force in general, creating transparency around policy and the investigations that happen in these criminal investigations, to be specific, and to also eliminate no-knock warrants. It's not the best way to start any sort of situation where you're trying to de-escalate harm. No-knock warrants should probably be removed completely, entirely. And, I actually recently shared a poem on YouTube that I'll share a little later as well, along with all of the other links. But before I do, I wanted us to recite the Asada poem, the chant that we would do with Soul Sisters Leadership Collective. So I pulled that up, and we'll just do the whole call and response thing. We can do it together.
Let's do it.
All right. This is just the last part because I couldn't find the whole thing. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
And support each other.
And support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Yes, our chains. So Soul Sisters Leadership Collective is the organization that Dale and I both worked for. They're doing great work around mobilizing system-involved girls and femmes of color. So I will share the information down below as well. But before we go, I just wanted to make sure that I gave everyone information regarding the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So I'm going to type some of these things into the chat now. And while I do so, Dale's going to take us out with another one of her tracks from the Sing Bitch album. So go ahead and get that started. I'm going to go ahead and share some of these links with y'all. Thank you for staying with us, everyone.
All right. So while we've been talking, I've been having sound issues, but it's okay.
Take your time. Take your time. I'm going to pull up these links for the community. So I have some information also about the Trevor Project, which is the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning young people under 25. We know that this month, September, hasn't quite ended yet. It's still Suicide Prevention Month. So I'm going to share that information with you as well. So let's get started here. Let me scroll on down. So first, I want to share the Poet Podcast so that you can go and tune into both seasons of Dale's interviews with a number of panelists and guests and her co-host.
Yes.
The Poet Podcast. So who do you host the Poet Podcast with, Dale? Share with us.
My husband, McCallumine, and also a good friend of ours, Baxter Wordsworth. And then we have different guests, which have included you, Kymani, and also, and also different people from other parts of the community, whether it's the entertainment community, wellness community. We had other teaching artists like Katie Rainey from Community Word Project come on. I think they were our first. She and her partner, Brian, were our first white guests. And I was like, how does it feel?
Shout out to
I love,
Katie.
shout out to Katie, who's doing great work in the community as well, and gave us a really honest conversation around different issues within our communities, within the art community, within the communities in New York and America, and so forth. Yeah, and it's hosted by Sky's Crescent Radio, which is run by Jade Zabrick, by a lovely guitarist. Yeah. So.
All right. So I just shared the Poet Podcast list. So on SoundCloud, you can see all these different episodes that Dale just shared. I shared the episode that I'm on as well. And I'm sharing Dale's debut album, her EP, Saying Bitch. I'm going to just keep saying that. Like, I can't wait.
Go ahead.
Then I'm going to share with you, as I said, the number for the National Suicide. Well, first I'll share the website for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Actually, Dale, go ahead and throw the music on if you got it ready, and I'll just go ahead and keep posting in all of these resources while you play.
Hey. Oh, I don't know. Can you hear it?
Yes.
1, 2,
hey,
3,
hey. 4. This is what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. We don't care about what we do. No, no. So blinded by lights, we can't see true. No, 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 no. We don't care about human beings. Hey, we only care about the MC. Yeah, yeah. What we want, what we want, what we want. We can't have, no. Say what we want, yeah, what we want. What we want, we can't. No. Doctors operate on third eyes. Hey, hey. Encore. We can point to our origins. Hey, but are we helping now, brethren? No, what we want, what we want, what we want, we can't have. No. Say what we want, what we want, what we want, we can't have. I'm confused on how I feel. Sometimes I wake up overwhelmed with lies I see it on computer screens and maybe on my phone. So many people throwing words we can't condone. I wonder if people will open up and see there's so much more beauty inside of each one of us on this earth. Why can't we all believe a change is what is needed? A change if we can see. Yeah, what we want. Yeah, what we want. What we want, we can't have. What we want, yeah, what we want. What we want, we can't have. Keep on singing, I'll be right back. Yeah, we can't have, no. We can't. Can we have fun? No. Can we have money? Yeah. Can we have power? No. What we want. Yes. That is my favorite on the album. Dale, thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
It has been my pleasure. Please tell us once again, how can we find you and follow you all over these interwebs?
You can follow me on Instagram at Dale Novella or The Poet Will Be. And also sign up for, you can go to the link in my Instagram bio, which is link bit.ly/Dale Novella Presents.
Okay.
That was a lot. But yeah, follow me.
All right, well,
get in touch with me.
Thank you so much. I want everyone to also, I'm sorry, y'all, I got a package coming. They knocking on my door. So I want to make sure that everyone also takes some time to not only follow Dale, but to go to justiceforbrianna.org. And please, please, please do what you can to help take action and support. I also want to invite you all to follow me. Ugh, they're getting a little rowdy out there on all the social justice waves. Yeah, all the social justice waves, all across social media at Kymani Jade. And you can find me on YouTube as well at Kymani Jade. Just go ahead and type in Kymani Jade into the YouTube search field. I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste this information for you. And please check out my latest poem, She Wears the Mask, now on YouTube. All right, y'all. Thank you for riding with us, for rocking out with us. Dale, thank you for your music, for your voice. Hold on, let me come back to the screen. Again, I appreciate you. Now, I live in the hood, so let me go get my package before it gets stolen. Thank you, Dale. Take care. Be good to yourself.
Thank you. You too.
Bless.